Yo, what's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of THRSHR Thursdays. Today we're going to be doing something a little different from the norm. I wanted to bring you guys something a little more educational. So we're going to be talking about my 10 tips for brand new FL Studio users. Alright guys, so before we get started, if you're new here and don't know who I am, my name is David, but I go by the name of THRSHR Beats. If you've been watching these and you're not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing. Just hit this tiny little button right over here. That's all you gotta do. Let me know if you like the video by dropping a like, leave me a comment, all that good stuff. But yeah, moving on to tip number 1. Alright, so when you first open up FL Studio, it looks something like this. I don't know if this is the exact default setting because I've changed mine. You have your kick, your clap, your hi-hat, your snare, but it also has this little thing right here. It has a limiter. Make sure you turn that off if you're going to keep using this template. Otherwise, what you can do is go up here to File, left click, go New from Template. I like to choose Minimal and Empty. As a beginner, that's all that you really need. You don't need any of the other stuff. All you need is the empty template. As you improve, obviously this might change. You might develop your own unique template for yourself. I like to have this as empty for now though. That way there's no limiter. I don't have to worry about taking the limiter off every time. And what that limiter does is it's just going to compress your sounds. It's going to squash them. It's going to make things sound, it's going to like make your highs sound weird. It's going to make your mid-range boosted. Basically you don't have to worry about that stuff. Later on you might add a limiter onto your beat to make the beat a little louder, but for now you don't want that on there, so take that off. Tip number 2 is to find free sounds and samples. There's a lot of free sounds and samples out there. You can just Google free samples for music production, scroll down, and there's so much information out there on the web. There's tons of different websites, different sample packs, so many resources for you guys. So there's no reason to not have some high quality sounds. You might be like,
hey, why can't I just use the sounds in FL Studio?
Well, you can. A lot of it is outdated and you have to do a lot of post-processing and sound design to get them to sound a certain way. Or you could just go on to like Cymatics or Splice, a website that has high quality sounds from the get-go, and then you don't have to worry about any of that. You just drag them into your DAW, into FL Studio, and you're good to go. Tip number 3 is to find some free plugins. Now when you're just starting out, you don't really need anything too crazy. All you really need is the FL stock plugins to make your first beat. But if you've been making beats for a few weeks now and you find that you don't really like the FL Studio stock plugins, you can just easily go onto the internet, go onto Google. And what I did was search free plugins for music production. If you scroll down, there's already a website here that gives you a list of our top 10 free plugins for music producers in 2020. I'm sure you'll be able to find a lot of cool stuff on there. There's also websites such as Plugin Boutique is one of my favorite ones. If you go to a Plugin Boutique, you see at the top here, there is a tab that says free. Click on that, you have effects, you have instruments, you have studio tools. There's tons and tons of tools and software and resources out there. All you have to do is take the time to look. Alright, so you've downloaded some free sounds, you got yourself some free plugins. Let's go ahead and make something real quick. So you got this cool little pattern right here. I know, it's great, right? Unbelievable. Anyway. So you got this cool pattern right here you just made. You want it to repeat a whole nother bar. So you could click it in again, or if you just go up here and highlight the first 4 bars and then select Control B, that'll duplicate that over there. You do the same with the hi-hats. And the same with the kicks. And I forgot to do it with the claps, but you get the idea. So this is going to bring us into tip number 4, which is go learn some hotkeys. So Control B is a very useful hotkey, probably the one that I use the most. You just saw me use it inside of the piano roll, but if you want to go into the playlist, you can also use it here. All you have to do is highlight this first pattern here, hit Control, hit B, it slaps it on right next to what you were just working on. Now you could also do the usual, which is Control C, copy, Control paste, but that usually just kind of slaps it wherever, and then you have to figure out where to drag it to line it up perfectly, and then sometimes it doesn't line perfectly there. So I like to use Control B. So that's one that I like to use a lot. I'm sure you guys have probably heard of Control C for copy, Control V for paste. That's kind of like a universal one. But there's other things that you can do here too. If we go back into the piano roll and you hold Shift up, that'll take your notes and it'll move it up one note. So say you wanted something higher pitched or lower pitched, you just hold Shift and then hit up or down. You can also move it over as well, shift and over if you wanted to shift something over. You can also use Control, and this will shift things up or down a whole octave. I'll show you with an actual melodic element. So we'll go back to the cloud drum notes, which are just D, but say we wanted to shift it up to D3. All you have to do is hold Control, up, shifts it up an entire octave. I don't know why I said D3, I meant D6. Apparently I can't do math. So yeah, using the controls is a nice function if you want to jump octaves really quickly like that. Tip number 5 is make things unique. So we already copied this over using Control B. But say we want to change up this pattern. We don't want it to stay the same the entire time. Let's say we want to change the notes. If you change something here, even though you clicked on this pattern, it's going to affect it over here because it's the same pattern. In order to fix that, all you have to do is go up to the top left corner here where you see this little like piano icon thing. Click on that, left click on that, and then scroll down to the tab that says Make Unique, and that will turn pattern 1 into pattern 2. It'll just make a new pattern for you, but you can now adjust this and it won't affect pattern 1 anymore because it's on its own unique pattern now. So go back into pattern 2, drag this up to G. Now pattern 1, as you can see, has stayed the same. Pattern 2 has changed. This is a really awesome function because anything that gets put onto the playlist can be made unique, such as automations, samples, the patterns, any of that. You can click on the little icon up there and make unique. This also brings us into our next tip. Tip number 6 is automation. You can automate just about anything in FL Studio. The master volume, you can automate pitch, you can automate the tempo. Pretty much anything you can think of, you can automate just by right-clicking on the knob and selecting Create Automation Clip. I'll show you here. Say we wanted to automate the tempo for whatever reason. You right-click on the tempo, you'll see that there is this little tab that says Create Automation Clip. And then boom, there's an automation clip for the tempo. And if we mess with it just a tiny bit, as you can see, it changed here. But you probably wouldn't do something like that, so let's do something a little bit more realistic. Let's say you wanted to put a low pass filter onto the cloud drum sound here. All you have to do is right click on the cutoff, create automation clip, and here you created an automation for a low pass filter, which would sound something like this. That's just one example, but you can literally automate anything, including third-party plugins. This is done a little differently. Say I put a frequency shifter. I really like this frequency shifter by Kilohertz. So we put this on the ample percussion cloud drum sound. And if you notice, when I right click, it doesn't bring up any create automation clip, no matter where we right click at. So in order to automate a third party plugin, what you have to do is you have to tweak it just a little bit. And then all you have to do is come up here to tools, last tweaked, and as you can see down here, a little familiar site, create automation clip. That is going to give you an automation for a third-party plugin, which as you can see here, it automates the pitch of the cloud drum. Let's take this off so you can hear it. Oh, there it is. But yeah, you can pretty much automate whatever. And this is super helpful because it creates more movement within your track, within your beat. So automation is your friend, and just have fun and play around with automating some things. Tip number 7 is to route your channels. We added an 808 onto this, but say I want to create an automation clip so that I can sidechain the 808 to the kick. So I can easily do that by automating this knob right here. But what if I also want to automate the cloud drum to sidechain the same time that the 808 does? What I can do is I can first be a little organized. I'm going to name this sidechain. Maybe I'll put like a colorful color on it. And then I can highlight this, route to this track. That was our 808. I can also highlight the cloud drum, also route to this track. Now we have these two routing to this track. I can create the automation clip to make a quick side chain. Something like that. And then just paste that automation on my kicks. So yeah, quick way to sidechain multiple things at once is to route your channels, however you want to say it, to one channel. Tip number 8 is to use mouse button shortcuts. If you have a mouse other than a standard mouse, like this one, I have 2 extra buttons. These 2 extra buttons here on the top of the mouse. I just discovered this recently, actually. It's super useful. Super useful tool is to go to X mouse button control by High Resolution Enterprises. Click on that link. It'll take you to a website that looks like this. You can download the latest version. When you open it up, it looks something like this. And what you can do is with your extra buttons here, you see when I tap the button, the corresponding buttons rows light up as I tap each one. So I'm tapping the top button right now, and say I want to change it to the pencil tool. That's mouse button number 5 for me. So I would go here, simulated keys, type in P, OK. Next one, the bottom button that I have, I want to change that to the slice tool, which I believe is C. You can go up here, and in the top corner right here, you'll see the shortcut key for it. So pencil tool is P, paintbrush is B, delete is D, and so on and so forth. So the slice tool would be C. So I just want to enter in C here. Press OK. Apply. And now you can see that these highlight every time I hit those special mouse buttons. And it quickly changes that way If I want to slice real quick and change the pencil tool, super easy, super convenient. If you have more mouse buttons, then that's awesome. But for me, I just have the 2, and hopefully this tip helps you guys out with your workflow a little more. I really like it. Another sort of hotkey, hot button type thing. Tip number 9 is to get up and move. As beat makers, music producers, whatever you want to classify yourself as, we are constantly sitting down in front of a screen. When we get in the zone, we could be sitting there for a long time. However, our bodies are not meant to be sedentary for long periods of time like that. It's important to get up from behind the screen, go for a walk, work out, stretch, drink some water, whatever works best for you. But we definitely need to do our bodies and our brains more of a favor. You might see me in some of my videos. I'll get up and I'll go make some coffee. I'll get up and I'll go take a walk outside. I'll go for a drive. It's beneficial to us, as backwards as it sounds, to get up, step away from the screen, step away from our brains just being so focused and trying to create. We get so into it that just taking a step back sometimes is honestly exactly what you need to push on to the next thing, to go gain some more ideas, some fresh ideas, come back with fresher ears. And I think it's more beneficial sometimes to take breaks, take walks. Your body's gonna love you for it. Your brain's probably gonna love you for it even more. Lastly, tip number 10 is don't compare yourself to others. You're just starting out. You just downloaded FL Studio. You can't compare your day 1 to somebody else's year 10. It's not a fair comparison to you. They've spent hours and hours and hours and money and time and studying, and they're at a much different level than you are. When you first start out, you're going to not sound that great, but you have to be able to understand that with time and with quantity and constantly working at your craft, you will eventually get better. Everybody started out where you guys are starting currently, and all those guys that are the greats now, they looked up to somebody that was the great to them, but they all started in your shoes. They all started downloading FL Studio and having no idea how to sidechain an 808 to a kick. Make sure that the only person that you're comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday. And most importantly, bonus tip, have fun. There's no rules to this. You are the creator. You are the artist. You are the person who has the pencil. You have the tools to create whatever it is that you want to create using whatever you have. So just have fun with it. Do some crazy stuff. Come up with some cool things. Whatever you think sounds good to you, that's what you need to be making. But yeah, that's it for today's video, guys. Just wanted to do something a little educational. If you haven't noticed, I started a new series. It's called the 10-Minute Beatmaking Challenge. I'm going to start doing these a lot more often, so if you haven't seen that one, go ahead and check it out. I'll put a link up above for you guys. And yeah, we're going to be doing that pretty much every week. We're going to be doing that whenever I can find time to fit that in addition to the usual THRSHR Thursdays. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps out some brand new FL Studio users, and maybe even some people that have been using it for a little bit and didn't know some of these tips and tricks. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace. I almost forgot I made this pretty dope hybrid trap drop that I'm about to let you guys listen to right now. Let me know what you guys think.